bit dizzy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house. Yes, it is Friday and we have a rescheduled tea time. That is right. We have Laura Price in the house. Miss Liz likes to pop in once in a while to see if you guys are still on your toes and all that good stuff. So welcome everybody that is tuning in tonight. I really want to appreciate all of you guys for joining me on a Friday because we have an incredible tea time lined up tonight. And tonight's tea that we are serving is Rap Music is My Soulmate, and I am on a quest for true love. That is the tea we are serving tonight in the house with Laura Price. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over on to all those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, all the podcast apps out there. Miss Liz is all over the place. If you just Google Miss Liz's Tea Times, you're going to find me and you're going to give those a quick like, follow, and subscribe and get those tea times out there because they do make a difference for all the guests out there. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And then we're going to get Laura Price in here and we're going to spill some tea. And we've got some good news that we're going to share with you tonight so that you guys can always help my guests as well. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guest viewers and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Viewers' participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where real stories create real awareness and where every conversation invites us to look deeper within ourselves. Today's guest brings us a journey of transformation, courage, and radical self-love. Please join me in welcoming Laura Price. After a successful 15 years career as a publicist, Laura experienced a powerful spiritual awakening that completely changed the direction of her life. Through that journey, she began confronting deep personal traumas, including sexual abuse and years of masking pain through addiction. Instead of allowing those experiences to define her, Laura chose a different path, one of healing, purpose, and spiritual connection. Today, Laura shares the practices that helped her rebuild her life, focusing on self-healing, sobriety, emotional awareness, and what she calls a kindness revolution. Through her work, art, music, and conversations, she encourages others to practice radical self-love, reconnect with their inner voice, and step into a more authentic life. So grab your cup and lean in. Today's Tea Time is about awakening, healing, and the courage it takes to rediscover who you truly are. Let me get Laura in here. Let's spill some tea together. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you for that amazing intro. So
Well,
grateful to be here.
I am honored to have you here, and I am so glad that we got this rescheduled in the
Me
same
too.
time that we booked it for. So, Laura,
Yeah.
let's get into who Laura was as a little girl and who's Laura now.
Oh, okay. So Laura as a little girl is actually very close to who I am now. I had this sort of middle phase that I was not me. When I was a little girl, I loved to be a star. I loved to be the center of attention. It was when I'm going to date myself here. When VHS first came out, my dad got one of those, the giant video cameras, and I loved to interview people. So I would just, go up to my aunt and uncle or whoever was around and interview them. I remember asking my uncle, "What's it like to be married to your wife?" And putting people on the spot, but talking about things that were, I guess, maybe kind of taboo. And also as a child, I loved to put on plays. I was a playwright, and inclusivity was really important to me. I remember writing this screenplay for Hansel and Gretel, and none of the kids in the neighborhood, they were all girls, nobody wanted to play the boys, so I rewrote it to be Hazel and Gretel, so that so we could be inclusive. And being in front of a camera or being a star was something that was important to me. And I also, growing up, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, which is a really kind of a random thing for a young child. And I always say that who we strive to be when we're younger, when they say, who do you want to be when you grow up, can be remnants of a past life, of either something that you were or something that would have made your lifetime easier or would have made those lessons easier. And so it's funny because I never really understood. I love talking to people. I've always been the one that is, coaching my friends through problems, relationship issues. That's my forte. It still is. And so I always thought it was that, but now I'm realizing after, when I spill my trauma tea, you'll understand more why I want to understand that line of work. And then in college, I was a radio DJ. That's where I first met hip hop. And, but I had dealt with some sexual trauma, and I think that was keeping my throat chakra blocked. So I would play these records and want to talk about them on the air. And it was blocked kind of. So I gave that up, and I was into photography and went to school for photography. So the artist has been there throughout. But then I had the period of being a publicist where I was behind the scenes. So I left, I'm an Aries, my birthday's coming up. So Aries is the star, the first of the zodiac, we were the hams. And so I kind of left that piece of me behind. And I think a lot of that was to do with the trauma and a lot to do with using substances to heal. And that makes you a little, it dims your light.
It actually does.
Yeah, it really does.
We think we're the center when we're partying, right? When we're in the addiction. But then when we start to get our sobriety and that, we realize we were really not the party.
I mean, I kind of was the life of the party, but at the same time, like, it took away from all the time. I didn't know how to be alone. And that was really scary. So I was always in a relationship or always had a million friends around. But what I learned after going through my trauma was that none of them were really actually my friends. They were all party friends, And so it was this sort of false sense of security that you had all this love around you. And I didn't actually, as I got abandoned by pretty much all of them when I had my spiritual awakening. And that was crushing to me. But it really, when you're using, cocaine or alcohol to mask pain and to heal, it really, that's what you're attracting. When you are, that's what you're basically, it's the devil energy, really. That's what you're magnetizing, is people that want your energy for the wrong reasons. Probably, still in my mind thinking life of the party, but I also thought I had to be out all the time and socializing, that was like my identity. And now I have a lot more alone time, and it's, while I love to go out and hear music, it doesn't give me that same joy. I love dancing, so that will never go away. But I could do with all the trips to the bathroom. Probably spent way too much time there. So anybody who knows. Being a publicist, it's like the Wolf of Wall Street. We were hanging around finance guys and people with a lot of money all the time, and that's the lifestyle. And so it's there's kind of two different sides of drug use, right? And it's even alcohol. It's so accepted in our society because it's legal, but that's a toxin. You're toxifying your body, and we glorify drinking to the point of no remember, and in college, like, that's okay. Why is that okay? But yet things like self-love, which I know we'll get to, are taboo to talk about. So it's one of the things I think if I learned to love myself more, I would have been able to release that trauma and not turn to those substances to work harder, to self-medicate. I have ADHD, and I didn't get diagnosed with that until after I quit drinking and Little White Lines. And it made a lot of sense to me why I was doing that, to self-medicate. I went through a period where I used crystal meth, and that is a stigmatized drug. And I'd say I was microdosing it, but that's what Adderall is. That's an amphetamine, but Adderall's prescribed. And so nobody judges that. And kids in college are using it, and adults all over the place, because we're in this high productivity society. And I didn't know that's actually what I had. And I was just trying to work harder and do more and be able to drink longer and stay out, and then still be able to show up to work the next day. I always had, my well-paying 9 to 5, not 9 to 5. It was more like 9 to 9 job. And then I had always freelance clients as well in PR. So I was really burning it at both ends. Now I know what adrenal exhaustion is. And that's definitely, I had that, but I had no idea what that was then. I mean, we're so blessed that we have YouTube, and there's so much healing. You have so many amazing people on your show. There's so much healing, so much access to healing modalities that we have now that weren't available, or if they were available to me, I was not aligned with them at that point.
Well, Laura, we have some questions that are coming into the studio, so I'd like to get those out to you tonight. Plus, we have some that I have in front of me.
Awesome.
We have a question that is similar, so I'm just going to pull them up, because it's how did your spiritual awakening first begin, Laura? And then the next question is kind of the same thing, so I'm just going to bring it up as well. Yeah. What was the exact moment that triggered your spiritual awakening?
Wow. Yes, mine was so powerful. So I had met my twin flame. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it's basically your divine counterpart. You're perfect opposites in a way. It's for me, hip hop is my soulmate, but I'm on the quest for true love. And I was married, then divorced, and I've always been on a quest for love, in knowing in my soul that there is the one out there. So I had broken up with him. It was a short relationship, but we've known each other 7 lifetimes. This is something I've learned spiritually. So it was so powerful. I don't think my friends and family, no one understood why I felt that way or how powerful it was. And that I had never felt like it felt like a tearing apart of my soul to leave him. But he was married, and he had said he was separated and wasn't getting divorced. So at that point it was COVID. And so I was working from home in my apartment, and I had never spent a lot of time alone. And I was probably drinking a little bit more, doing more white lines than I would normally, trying to get work done, and also just probably trying to cope with my heartbreak. And I think inside I was praying for help. I would open the bottle of wine, at 5 o'clock, and just be like, I know if I opened it, I was going to drink the whole thing. There might be a second one that came into play, and I would just not want it, but I would do it. It was this habit and a cycle that I didn't know how to break on my own. All my friends did that too. Maybe not everybody had their thing, right? So, it wasn't really judged, but I think, when COVID happened and you weren't going out as much, it became more apparent that, like, oh, this is not something I want to be doing at home alone. Right. Yeah. And I was sitting there working. It was the middle of the afternoon. I'll never forget it. It was July of 2020. And all of a sudden it was like I woke up out of a coma, and my life flashed before my eyes. I heard the divine, like, Laura, this is not the path for you. So I took a little baggie I had and I flushed it down the toilet and I never looked back. And it was like, I was like, okay, let's go. Oh my gosh. I had always felt the presence of the universe. You know, I went to church growing up. I was Presbyterian, but I didn't believe in immaculate conception. Like I love the idea of religion in order to be a better person. But I wasn't, very religious. And that moment I was like, okay, we have a higher power here and it is coming to help me. I felt so supported. And all of a sudden my life and options for another path for my life flashed before my eyes, flashed over my computer screen. And I all of a sudden just felt like it was like I was in the Goodyear blimp and I could just see the pathways available to me. And all of them, like when God is watching, you're not doing drugs, you're not drinking, you're like, it's like, thank you. Not that I needed somebody to be watching over me because I knew what I was doing, but I needed to feel lifted. And that's what I felt. And it's funny because I had started journaling 6 months before that. And that day, like, I didn't journal about it because I think I did not have the words. I did not have the vocabulary for that power that I felt. And it was such a blessing. And I pray anybody that is praying for help, like, know that it's there for you. So I say right now, I'm a knower, not a believer. Like that moment made me a knower that day. And after that, I was like, let's go. And just hopped on the divine train of letting my life be guided. And so I stopped drugs immediately. I probably had like 2 days where I felt like crap, but I was still working. I got laid off because I actually was working for a travel company based in Rome, and I'd been like their last standing employee. I developed a online program for them that kept them alive. This was in August of 2020. So it sort of kept them alive through that. And I got laid off, which was the biggest blessing because this new pathway had shown itself to me where I could return to my soul as an artist. And I had plans for every different friend I had fit into this puzzle. I had this big master plan, but I got laid off and I felt pulled by the divine to speak my truth and say, I'd hidden that I had been, secretly doing white lines, not secret with my friends, but from my family for, 15 years. And it had not affected my life. It didn't affect my job ever, probably made me better at it, which is terrible to say, but I was self-medicating, but in a very controlled way. Like never had any, major embarrassing situations or anything with it. I'm all about balance. I have a Libra rising. So if you haven't done cocaine and drank, the cocaine will balance out the drinking. So you're kind of, but then it's this cycle where you're constantly seeking more balance. So I felt called to just own it and go to my family and say, hey, I've been doing this. I've quit. I'd been done for probably 2.5 weeks by then and really feeling proud of myself. And I was expecting to get, some applause or something that I had quit on my own. And I thought, I talked to a friend and I said, maybe I should go to rehab. Like that's what you do when you quit a toxic habit. Right. And I didn't feel like I needed it because I detoxed and I felt so supported by the divine. And when you have that awakening, you're really guided as to what to do to support yourself. So as I forgot to mention, as a child, I was a champion roller skater. I went to nationals twice as a figure skater. So I'd always had exercise in my life. And that probably was balancing my ADHD because I was getting dopamine and endorphins when I was in high school and middle school. And when I went to college, I didn't have that. And even in my adult life, I finally found exercise again. But during COVID, I definitely wasn't. And I got called to do that as one of my healing modalities. So that had helped me where I didn't feel like I necessarily needed the rehab, but I thought, hey, I just got laid off. And contrary to the false narrative that was spoken about me, the drugs and alcohol had nothing to do with that. That actually happened after I quit. So who knows, maybe I was doing a better job before, but I don't think that's what it was. It was really, they ran out of money and COVID wasn't over anytime soon. But anyway, so I went to my family and I asked for help to go. It's very expensive. And they said no. They declined my request for help and I was floored. I really wasn't expecting that, but I felt like, okay, I thought, God's trying to show me something here. He's trying to show me, you know, peeling back layers of what, you think is going on in your dynamic and what really is going on. And also saying you can do it yourself, but you also, it's like coming out of the closet. I guess it's the easiest thing to compare it to. And
Yeah.
feeling like there's always this part of you that's a secret, right? And that, your friends know, and that they're about that. And you don't want to be defined by that. But at the same point, there's this release of shame when you own it to people that don't know. And I felt this massive release, but then at the same time, I guess I was expecting to get, applauded and a pat on the back. And I didn't get that. I didn't get any flowers for that. It was sort of like, when I asked about it, they were like, well, rehab is the easy route. And maybe that's so. And luckily, I didn't feel like I needed it. And I get that, that was part of my journey. That's part of my path, because I developed my own healing modalities through spiritual guidance. And one of those is using orgasm to heal, self-pleasure. When you give, at the root of every addiction is a lack of love. And it's either a lack of love of self or a lack of love from your surroundings. And a lot of times it's both. And the highest form of love is self-love, right? So learning to give that to myself. And I had a self-pleasure practice, but never to that point. I was always in relationships. And like I said, I was on the quest for true love and thinking I needed to meet somebody to complete me. And I thought I'd met him, but the universe said, next, we can bring you somebody else, basically. Like, a lot of people think that a twin flame is the end all be all. And you go through, it's a difficult pathway, but you hope that you'll come back together. But people can spend they can spend lifetimes waiting for that person, running after them. And what happens is, with a twin flame dynamic, usually you mirror each other, and one person typically will decide to heal and the other person either never does or that takes longer. And so basically, in terms of ascension, somebody rises above and you're no longer aligned. You have to
So
work
it's
on
kind of
yourself.
like opposite attract, right?
Yeah, but you find out, like, so many of the things that you've gone through in your lives are similar. And like, we both had a toxic addictions. And it's funny because I look at doing music now, right? And I never would have told you that I could rap. I love rap music. I'll listen to it 24/7. But the universe said, no, Laura, I was a singer growing up. I loved, I starred in a church play, and I always loved singing, but rap felt like something that was, out of reach for me. But the beautiful thing about awakening, and I love to encourage people with this, is that you're shown your destiny path, and that is your highest potential. So a lot of us will go along and we can just live the fated life. Like, if you a lot of times go for a spiritual reading, they'll tell you you're going to have X amount of kids, you're going to meet this person, that all these things are going to happen. Some of them have to happen for you to learn certain lessons, but you have a lot of choice and free will. And when you start manifesting to your destiny, you're thinking higher of yourself. You're thinking, oh, that's my potential. When God tells you you could do something, you're like, okay, I can do that. And you start envisioning yourself in that capacity. Whereas a lot of times we limit ourselves. So yeah, the twin flame, it was like an opposite attracts, but like, we love the same music. And it's so, things that he would be great at, like organization. I'm a big idea person. He's great at organization. And I see that in like doing music now. I'm like, oh, he would have been great at that. And I see why we would have been great partners. But the universe is like, he doesn't change. So I'm a spiritual medium now. And that developed after my awakening. There's layers to ascension. There's layers to awakening. You achieve higher levels of consciousness, larger spiritual gifts by sacrifice, by fasting, which is also a form of sacrifice. And, I lived in my car off grid for a year. That was a big way that I was able to attain higher gifts. But they showed me a higher love, somebody else that they gave me to envision, to manifest, saying, I call it a soul flame. But I've met him in my dreams, but I haven't met him in real life. So I know that it's out there, but it's like, it takes me aligning to my absolute highest potential to reach that. And I hope that that happens this lifetime. They're telling me the universe, I say they, when I call the universe they, I think it's a non-binary situation.
There's multiple things coming in.
Sorry?
There's multiple things coming your way, Laura.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'll let you go. You just cut me off whenever I ramble. I can talk on these topics till the morning light comes.
Well, Laura, let me get this question out to you. How can
Sure.
somebody begin practicing radical self-love daily?
Oh, okay. First of all, you've got to get up in the morning. The divine creator's hour. And that is when there's so much stillness. That's when you can really hear the divine. We all have access to the divine. You have to ask for it. You have to be grateful for it. And the easiest time to access that is between like 4 and 6 a.m. And you have to love yourself and self-pleasure. So there's so much talk these days about self-love. And a lot of times the actual self-pleasure aspect is left off. And especially for women, we always have an excuse of too busy. And, self-love is a non-negotiable, and it should be like brushing your teeth. So get out that vibe and play. And that's how you can begin practicing radical self-love, to prioritize that, to make that your happy hour, the morning. And when you do that, it's a divine meditation. It's divine medication, raises your vibration for ultimate manifestation. Radical self-love does. So, your climax energy is your ultimate manifestation energy as well. So that is the easiest way. Gratitude and self-love, self-pleasure, they go hand in hand. And a lot of people think that taking that time out to love yourself, to pleasure yourself, is selfish. And it's not. It's actually the most giving thing, the kindest thing that you can do. Because when you take that extra time to fill up your cup, you're overflowing with love to give to others. And, radical self-love is the first step. And then when you have filled your own cup, you need to give to others and give to strangers. It could be a smile, money, a handshake. I love to give self-care items, because when I lived in my car, that's the thing that I noticed, is that we think about food as, the basic that people need. But women, especially, lotion, face wash, mascara, like things that make us feel beautiful. I gave up material things. I lived in my car. I was running from trauma. My friends and family had betrayed me, and basically 6 months after I quit all, drugs, had mistaken my spiritual awakening for mental illness. And that happens a lot. A lot of women get prescribed medication, get diagnosed with something, and they think they are forever having this schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever it may be. And that can be the case for some people, but a lot of times it's spiritual awakening. A lot of other times it's gut health. And I was living in my car, and I had literally just secured an apartment in LA. My podcast was launching, and I had a partnership with a dating app to be a dating expert. So I had instantly 20,000 listeners. And I was launching a PR coaching business, and I have been doing all that, and I was keeping it alive in the car somehow, some way. And they went behind my back and reported me missing. And if you get pulled over in Delaware, it's a mandatory 48-hour hold. And it's a civil rights violation. I had no rights. Wow. And so after that, I ran. And I turned off my phone, and the universe said, "We've got you. We'll support you." And I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't speak my truth. And, that came back to kind of bite me because a lot of false narratives went around about me, and it ruined my reputation. But, the universe tears you down and brings you back up. And that's the blessing that came from that. But living in my car, I had nothing. And I had been eating in Michelin star restaurants when I was a publicist. And so I experienced a side of life that I never anticipated. But now it positions me to be able to make change, to be able to give back. So that is my kindness revolution, which is giving to people that are ignored, overlooked, and, not often served. It's, not giving. It's not necessarily, it's not the person that's begging on the corner. It's, it could be the USPS delivery person, the Amazon guy, a single dad. When I lived in Philly, I would give toothpaste to them, and these things come to me spiritually. I get guided. I call it my divine hotline. It's always open. The divine calls, and they're like, buy this thing, or this person needs that. But I know from living in the car, there's so much kindness in the world that happens every day that's unsung, and people would just come by and drop things like wipes, or, it was 100 degrees in there. And I could go on about that for days, but that was
So
really
Laura,
eye-opening.
let me get a couple of these questions into
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
because a lot of them are similar. So I'm just going to pop them up
Okay.
on the screen, but most of them are similar. So I want to get them. And it is, what role does spirituality play in your self-healing? And then we have another one here. What are simple self-love practices beginners can try?
Mhm.
And what are some simple self-love practices beginners can try? Again, so we have the similar questions coming in. So I'm just going to pop them up on the screen so you can
Yeah.
see them.
Okay.
And kind of just give them a little insight on self-care and all of that. And a little bit more, we're going to get into your podcast and all that good stuff. We're going to get into some good news that you shared with me today. We're going to get into all of that good stuff.
Okay.
So
Awesome. So the absolute best spiritual self-love practice that you can do is gratitude. That is open to everybody every day. I start my day like this every single day. And gratitude is the antidote to worry. So this is a tool that's available for you any moment in the day when that worry creeps in, when fear, money worries, stress of any sort. So I recommend start your day with 10 things that you're really grateful for. And the most powerful thing you can do is write them down. And you can do it. I'm truly grateful to the universe for the cool side of the pillow. I'm truly grateful to the universe for my financial abundance. And that can be, if you have $1 in your wallet, that is financial abundance. You never want to say you're broke. That just pushes money away. But gratitude and be grateful for divine guidance, because whatever you're grateful for, you will receive more of. So if you're grateful for your beauty, be grateful for your perfect butt. Even if you're looking in the mirror and your butt is not what you want it to be, like, ladies, we are so hard on ourselves.
do more crunches.
Yeah, but you know what you do? You look in the mirror and you say, thank you for healing. I did this. I sat in my car for I really didn't get up out of it very much for about 6 months. 8 months I was in there. And my butt turned out, it used to be great. I grew up skating, I had the skater's butt and it flattened out. And my stomach, I didn't have the abs. And I got out and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just said, thank you for healing. I wore Nike's shoes while I lived in my car for 6 months. I never took them off. And they didn't smell. And that is the key to not having smelly feet while you are living homelessly, because you just never take them off. But I had bunions on my feet. So I through G-spot activation, which we'll talk about, and gratitude, I healed that. So be grateful for anything you want to heal. Like I say to anybody that's struggling with disease, thank you for healing. Thank your body. Thank every organ. Be grateful for your eyes. Be grateful for your hearing. All these things, we forget and we take it for granted, like your breath, being grateful for your breath, and, vary it every day. And it gets easier and easier. When I first started gratitude practice, it sounds really simple. And I thought of myself as a grateful person, but it's not just about when you receive, it's about things you already have. And so give yourself a little grace, because it takes practice to get good at it. And look at books. There's some great books, and there's also really great on YouTube gratitude meditations that give you the prompts to help you develop that skill. And, I still use them, because there's times when you feel like everything is going to hell in a handbasket in your life, and you need to be reminded all the great things that are going on, great things to be grateful for. And the other way to do it is I also make sure I don't go to sleep without thinking of the best thing that happened that day and being grateful for it, because then no matter how crappy your day was, you always pick out something that was great. And there's always something to be grateful for every day. So yeah, gratitude is number one.
So Laura, how can we break limiting patterns in our lives? How did you break your pattern?
Limiting beliefs. Yes. Practice. You really have to be really focused on your thoughts. And part of goddess activation is purifying your mind. And that means purifying your mind of gossip, and negative self-talk is the biggest one. And it's, it's a constant process. You go through phases where you get really good at it, but being conscious of your thoughts, because we curse ourselves, honestly, most often. And so, instead of saying, I'm really bad at this, is I'm improving every single day. And, I look at affirmations, and sometimes I do meditations for them when I notice myself going off the rails, and I'm like, there's a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of limiting beliefs. As I'm sure whoever sent this in probably knows about manifestation, and the thing that will block your manifestations is a limiting belief. So if you think you can only earn X amount, that's all the universe is going to bring you. So with that, writing these things down, writing down your gratitude, and writing down the I am affirmations. I am beautiful, I am abundant. Wherever you find you're obviously, you're on your path because you have the limiting beliefs, right? And that's the first step. And once you have awareness of your thoughts, you can change them. And it's an everyday struggle, but you get good at it. And then you get really proud of yourself because those manifestations start coming in, and you notice when you've planted weeds, and you can always fix it. It's you can just fix it with more gratitude. That'll keep coming up because it's the blessing that we have that fixes everything. It's the antidote. You cannot be worried and stressed when you're grateful. So whatever you're limiting yourself on, if it's finances, it's money. Okay. The spiritual divine guidance is coming through right now. So this person, it's money, is just envision your bank account with the amount that you want, and go big. Like, there's this story, Jim Carrey used to write out he wrote out $1 million check, and he envisioned it constantly. And he ended up he got that $1 million paycheck, and it works. But being grateful while you envision that is key. So be grateful what you already have. If you already have $1, that's okay. But envision that $1 million, and don't worry about how you're going to get it, because that's up to the universe. They'll show you how, and they are creative. The universe,
and they put you in spots that you don't even realize you're going into, and you're like, why am I going this way? What's over here that I have to do this?
Yes. But you have to trust your heart. I call that divine GPS. So it's your divine guidance system that's like showing you these things that you didn't realize were part of your destiny path and your potential, or beautiful connections like this one, that allow me to just envision, you're the entrepreneur of impact. We'll talk about that later, but people that will support you, that are unexpected, because a lot of times our support comes from people we don't even know. And when the universe is, your third eye or your heart is pulling you to like reach out to somebody, reach out. You have nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Another question that just came in for you, Laura, is what helped you most in healing from trauma and addiction?
Loving on my V, loving on my kitty, loving on my flower. And because that is where, as women, we store trauma. We store shame there. We store trauma. And a lot of women, we're never taught in school that we should be loving ourselves there. A lot of women have never even looked at themselves in a mirror down there. And that just perpetuates the shame. I mean, getting your period, there's so much shame around that. And we don't have we're not taught to talk pretty to your kitty, I say, and that's the biggest healing modality. And that came to me entirely spiritually. And at first there's shame to get around it, because it should be an everyday practice. You brush your hair, you brush your teeth, you put on makeup, and that's okay. Right. And that's self-care, but so is loving your kitty. And it's, in the beginning, was a little shameful. Like, I could take time for this.
Society makes us think that it is shameful.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? Is a lot of society systems and programs have put us into these shameful situations or divisions, and question ourselves or second guess ourselves or put the limiting beliefs on ourselves, because society tells us, don't do that. It's dirty. Don't do that. It's shameful.
Right.
Until we start to learn the self-love and the self-awareness of our own bodies and our own spiritual journeys, then we open up that eye, right? And we open up the journey of the
It is
potential that we really have within ourselves.
exactly. It's empowerment. I say masturbation is meditation. Also, I mean, it also triggers all 4 of your happiness hormones, your dopamine, your endorphins, your oxytocin, if you make it mindful. And the only thing that really comes closing is dancing, which, how about pair the two together? Have a little solo dance party and then, get in your bath, get your serotonin, and then love on your V. And that's empowerment. And it really enhances your self-worth. And what I noticed for myself is I don't deal with any BS from any man, from anybody, because I can give the love to myself. So somebody has to really be, divinely aligned, really coming correct and loving me for my soul and not just my body, because I can give that love to myself. I can give myself that climax. And that climax is your divine connection. So as a spiritual medium, that's how I connect. And that's when I channel, it all comes through as poetry. And I always know when I have that connection. When I don't have it, I can still channel, but it's not as clear and there can be negative influences. But, that's what really made me realize is like, this is real, but no wonder the society wanted to hide it, right? Because this is so powerful. This is how we connect to the divine. And so ladies, I encourage you to do it because it's also meditative and use it for your manifestation, but also we all embody the divine. We all can connect with our higher selves. And when your love is your highest vibration. So when you're loving yourself, that's when the divine can speak to you and help guide your life.
Well, Laura, I want to talk about your podcast because I love the title of your podcast.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Do you want to share the title of your podcast for my listeners out there?
Pull the panties to the side. And so this is twofold. First off, there's like the very obvious physical aspect, and to enjoy self-pleasure, that's a great move. Pull the panties to the side, but also pull the panties to the side on talking about it and talking about self-pleasure, talking about the V. I call it the V, the flower, the kitty, all these things, because it is taboo in society. But it's funny because like we have on television so much violence, guns, and all of that is not censored. And you can look at that any day, all day. But, if it comes to the nude female body, it's censored. But, we all saw a tit. Everybody on this earth has seen a tit when they came out of the womb. They've seen a V, but we're not allowed to look at it between these certain ages, but it's so natural. It's way more natural than looking at a semi-automatic gun. And you can look at those all day long on the internet. And so I felt there was this real need to pull the panties to the side and talk about self-pleasure. And it's funny, I have had this idea for 5 years, right? I told you before about, I had a partnership with a dating app to talk about, and it was going to be sexuality, spirituality, and unity, because sexuality and spirituality are one. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity now, but it's amazing talking to women because there's so many stories of masturbation as a child, and women, that love on themselves. And what I've learned through coaching too, is there's so many women that don't, but then they are stuck in this jealousy. And we've all met women that are jealous, and you can tell when they're catty, we've all had experiences. We've all been that person at some point, and, it's all because we haven't been loving on ourselves. That blocks our solar plexus chakra, and that's your personal power. And so I thought, wow, I wanted to know, who has a self-pleasure practice, who doesn't, why not, where have women and men, I'm going to interview some men too. I'm going to talk to some rappers. How did you learn about sex? Because I don't think there is a lot of education about it. We have porn websites, and that's, 80% of women are faking orgasms since college. Me included. And a lot of that is because we've never investigated and learned our own bodies. And if you don't know how to make yourself come, you can't expect a partner to do that. But we're also never taught, why is it important to climax? And it's important for your mental health. It's important for nervous system regulation.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that is part of our mental health.
Yeah.
Healthy sexuality is part of mental health.
And expressing it and talking about it. And, just because I talk about it doesn't mean I want to do it with it. There is a lot of stigma where, guys come, slide through in the DMs and think that means that I want to like give them a show. And I'm like, no. This, my sessions for coaching are fully clothed. I do have a workshop that I'm doing for men about G-spot activation. And because I've noticed in my coaching, there's a lot of women that don't talk about it or scared of it, but there's a lot of guys that do want to pleasure a woman and they want to know how, and there's really not a lot of places to learn. And you're not going to get most porn videos, it's not real, so if that's what they have to go on, we're not going to get, ladies will never be satisfied, but if we don't pleasure ourselves, we don't know what to ask for. And exactly. I think that's the biggest thing. And I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about spirituality and all these things that are taboo that are integral to our healing and that will make us better humans. It should be okay to talk about sexuality and not feel like it's going to be a come on or something. I have always been really open about it. And the universe guides me to people. And it's for some reason, I can get anybody, they will just open up about their sex life to me. And I'm like, the universe is showing me, okay, this needs to be, put out there because I think people want to talk about it. We're all doing it or we want to do it. It's really the only thing that you can say that about. And it's love.
And one thing about society too, Laura, is I noticed that we talk about male masturbation, but we don't talk about female masturbation.
Exactly, right? It's fine for them. And it's expected. And I think, they learn from their dads. It's okay. But even if you look at our words for it, like jerking off, choking the chicken, they're all these icky words. But there's actually a Taoist term. It's called self-cultivation, which I love. I think that's a really great way. And that's ancient. So, I talk about this. This is not new knowledge. It goes back to the Egyptian times of women tapping the G-spot. It is the living water. It's our divine water, and any woman can do that. And female ejaculation is open to every single woman, and it's kind of talked about or thought of as this, only for a select few, or not every woman can do it. And so most women don't even try, but it's open to every woman. The thing that will block you will be a trauma. And when I do goddess activation coaching, I use spiritual guidance. I channel to find out what that blockage is so that we can release it. So it's open to every woman. But yeah, I think, there's men that want to learn too, and they should be able to. And if they want to open that to their partner, I encourage their partner to investigate her own anatomy first. But hey, if a guy wants to learn the technique to deliver that pleasure and that emotional release to a partner, like, yes, I'm all about it. Let me give that information, and that's launching in April. It's on my website. It's called Secret Teachings, because the living water, it's referred to in the Bible, but the Bible, you think of it like an actual body of water. It's not. It's actual female ejaculation is the living water, and it's healing. It balances your pH. It's not studied, which shows you how healing it really is, because they don't want you to know because it's free. And, I encourage more women to do it and to try it. And I really want to encourage young women. I think that if I had learned self-pleasure as a spiritual practice, as a meditation, I would not have had so many toxic habits. Nail biting. I probably wouldn't have, I don't bite my nails now, but I probably wouldn't have had that because, it's a stress reliever.
Yeah. Absolutely, right? We're not taught how to release stress.
No, not at all. But what's interesting is that I've learned, I have a couple clients that have special needs children, and they all self-soothe through masturbation. And they're 10 years old, one's 12. And I had another friend that her daughter was doing it as, very young. And there's an artist that I just interviewed for my podcast who also told me that she was self-pleasuring very young, and it was to heal some abuse that she had gone through. And so it's innate, it's intuitive for us. I say all of the healing modalities are downtown, and we have a natural dispensary in our bodies, and we just need to know how to tap it. And that is through self-pleasure. And, for men, it's similar, it's slightly different, but, for women, we have never been taught, and it's something that needs to change.
Well, it's a topic of taboo, right? Don't mention it.
So
It's
much so. Oh,
right.
I've been ostracized, by everybody for talking, not everybody, but a lot of people that were in my life before for talking about it. But I think people are still interested about it, and not everybody is comfortable talking about it, and that's okay. But the more, your throat chakra is connected to that. And so if you have a blockage, about talking about it, that's probably stemming from something that might have happened in childhood that, can be released through your own self-pleasure practice and getting to know your own body.
Well, Lori, you sent me the Divine Hotline Goddess Activation Program, and you also
Yeah.
sent me the Goddess Activation Morning Routine
Yeah.
Checklist. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, we can. So, goddess activation is radical self-love and purifying mind, body, and soul. So, as I mentioned, I live a sober lifestyle. Alcohol, any type of toxin, even if it's marijuana, those things will all cloud your third eye. Microdosing is a thing. All of it will cloud your third eye. Everybody has a different journey, but I want everybody to be pure. The more pure you are, the more pure your connection. And that also starts in the mind with purifying your thoughts about yourself and your thoughts about other people. You can do damage with your thoughts, just like you can talking, gossiping about someone. You can do damage thinking negative things about them. But so the morning routine is something that has transformed my life. Getting up at 4 a.m. and the universe urged me to do this. It took a while for that to really become the habit. And there still are days where it doesn't happen, but for the most part, and it has transformed my life because it gives me just time to slow down and time that the whole world is quiet, time to have clear thoughts. So I do my gratitude practice, which we talked about. It starts with that. And self-pleasure. And so having a little bit of time, you're not rushing. I sometimes take a bath in candlelight, having a beauty ritual, and that's different for everybody. So you make this your own. But for me, it's putting on makeup every day, whether I'm going to see anybody or not. We're now living in this work from home culture. And so it's easy to get lazy, but then you'll walk by the mirror and be like, and that's negative self-talk and you're hurting yourself. So an easy way, just put on your lipstick and you won't do that. And, it's just guarding against that, but it also is meditative. Blow drying my hair is meditative. Taking that time for myself, where I used to be rushing out the door, and also clearing up clutter. So keeping a very ordered space, because when your space is cluttered, your mind is cluttered. And then the divine hotline's not open. It's cloudy. It can't get through. And I also always do some sort of exercise or yoga in the morning. And so you can really make this your own. And I have a checklist. If anybody wants to go to my website and sign up, I'll send everybody the checklist. I'll send you this and my manifestation routine, because I also integrate this goddess energy. The full moon and the new moon are your best times for manifestation. And the key to this is the climax. And so, but there's also a whole routine about writing down your gratitude, followed up by your wishes, your desires in a certain manner. And I can send you, I sent that to you, Miss Liz, but I'll send that for free to anybody that wants to sign up for the email. And I encourage you to use that full moon, new moon. And it works like magic. I've manifested a Chanel bag where my budget did not support that, and it got gifted to me. So, visualization. The other really important thing to do in the morning after your gratitude, after your climax, is I heard somebody describe it as a mind movie, and I thought this was really beautiful because it's envisioning what you want your life to look like. If it's the perfect partner, it's, envisioning how does that look? If it's, for me, it's my home in LA with my perfect partner. And so I envision that every day, what that looks like. And a lot of times when you visualize and you start doing it a lot, it's like a muscle. And, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the divine will help you. And especially during that 4 to 6 a.m. time, the creator's hour, the divine is active. And it's also showing your devotion. By getting up at that time, you're showing self-love, but you're also showing love to the divine. Gratitude is like a prayer, and the divine will meet you halfway. And sometimes these images just pop in my mind and I'm like, oh, a Porsche. Okay. Or, things that, again, like we have limiting beliefs and they're like, we can bring you this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. And then that becomes part of the movie. And, things that I wasn't even, we limit ourselves. Like the car is a perfect example of, like, it's not what you can have right now. It's what is your highest potential.
Yeah.
And so, when you get up in the morning get up at 4. You'll notice as you start to do this, you'll just be woken up at 4. A lot of you probably already are. And that's the divine saying, hey, we want to help you. We're here for you. That's the hotline. It's the phone ringing. And when I've not answered the call, I get this visualization of like the phone hanging up, and I'm like, oh, my bad. I got in trouble. I didn't answer the call. But they're calling you because they want to help. And so when you're grateful for the help, they just bring you more help. And when you feel free to ask for help. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned is how to ask for help. And the divine is always there for you. I mean, there's always help available. Just be open for it to come in very unusual ways.
Well, Laura, I want to get into some good news that you shared with me today.
Yeah.
You're one of the finalists for the Entrepreneur of Impact. Do you want to share a little bit about that and how people can vote for you and get that out there?
So this is an amazing opportunity. You can vote for me. I can share that link. I know Miss Liz put this on her Facebook. And right now I'm in second place in my group, and I will win $25,000 plus a mentoring session with Damon John from Shark Tank. What's so funny about this is I read his book 4 years ago. And I started manifesting it because it was great. And this is really a manifestation for me coming true to have this when I win this opportunity. And it will support funding right now. I'm looking for funding for my book, which is all about goddess activation. It will be called Pull the Panties to the Side, or Pleasure Thyself, the 11th Commandment. And I don't want to turn off anybody that is, into the Bible and spiritual, because everyone is entitled to their beliefs.
I like pull the panties to the side.
I think I do too. And it goes with the podcast. And so the book's almost done. So we'll go to fund that. And also for my kindness revolution to be giving back, because part of loving yourself is filling your cup so you can love another, and loving somebody else every day. It also balances your karma. So this opportunity will give me that, and it will be the culmination of a manifestation. I almost said a masturbation. The universe is playing jokes on me right now. It's a divinely guided manifestation of showing me, that support will be there if this doesn't come through, I'm manifesting it hard, and I got the help of Miss Liz right now and you guys. So I think it will, but it could come through in another way. It's putting it out there that you're open to receive. And that's what's important.
Well, I love celebrating other people, and it's the underdog that I always like to encourage to keep going. And your story was the underdog story. And that's why I wanted to have you on Tea Time, because you've been through it. You've lived it, you've experienced it, and now you're the example of that experience and those life lessons. So, Laura, what final message would you have for everybody out there tonight?
Don't ever let somebody else take control of your life. I lost my power when my friends and family who were drinking at the time, I was sober when they reported me missing, and they had talked to me, and I lost my power, and I let that power, I lost it for years. Like, I really feel like I'm just now getting it back. And that was 5 years ago. So know that the divine is there to support you. Know that there's people like me. There's people like Miss Liz. Like, I wish I'd reached out earlier, but my throat was blocked. And so there's support out there for you. So if you feel like you've lost your power, and don't let anybody take that from you, but use it. It teaches you your resilience, but surrender to the divine, be grateful, let it all go, let the relationships go, let that life go, and let the divine show you what you're meant for. Let the divine show you your destiny path. And, Miss Liz is here, I'm here, there's so many places for support, but, we'll help build you back up. And it's through platforms like this where we can share these healing journeys that makes us all not feel so alone. So absolutely. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on Tea Time. And thank you to all the listeners and the people that came in with their questions. Thank you for all of that. We could not do this without all of us, right? It's a team. And I say it all the time. I have T and me, and makes a team. So that's what we do on the team of Miss Liz. We just support one another and we encourage one another. But I want to just do a quick recap of what tonight's Tea Time was. And then I'll see everybody on Monday. Make sure to tune in on Monday, because we have another rescheduled Tea Time on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we have the final 2 of March. And then we're jumping into April right away on the 2nd and 3rd. So stay tuned for more tea times that are coming. What a deeply reflective and powerful conversation. Laura, thank you for your openness and for reminding us that healing often begins with the moment we stop running from our truth. Your journey shows that even when pain led us down difficult paths, it can also become the catalyst for profound transformation. Tonight, we were reminded that kindness must begin with ourselves before it can ripple outwards into the world. Radical self-love is not selfish. It is necessary for healing, growth, and genuine connection. For everyone listening, here is a little food for thought to carry with you after this tea time. Sometimes the life we are meant to live begins the moment we stop trying to be who the world expected us to be. Until our next cup shared, keep choosing truth, keep choosing kindness, and keep believing that healing is always possible. And I'll see everybody on Monday, and we'll do this all over again.
Thank you so much.